A first date ended in murder. A Milwaukee man is now charged in the death of a missing woman. He's accused of cutting up her body to try to cover it up. The family of 19-year-old Sade Robinson faced Maxwell Anderson in court today as prosecutors laid out the evidence against him. Investigators connected Anderson and Robinson through text messages and phone records. Prosecutors confirming it was Sade's leg discovered in a Cudahy park just last week.
Would do something like this to my beautiful baby. She hurt nobody. She harmed nobody.
The victim's friends and family now picking up the search to find Sade. Miriam McCarr followed along with volunteers at multiple sites this afternoon.
Through woods and near tracks, dozens continued a diligent search for Sade Robinson's remains. The unknown of what searchers will find where the 19-year-old was last seen made their task Friday even more difficult.
I have a little sister around her age, little cousins around her age. It could have been any one of them. And if it was one of them, I would want the community out here helping me as well.
Coriana Danielle spent the entire day moving from spot to spot, digging for clues.
It's very hard, actually.
Prosecutors confirmed Friday morning Maxwell Anderson is connected to the death and disappearance of the 19-year-old. The day of his arrest last Thursday, Maya Lopez captured this video from her living room window of officers taking Anderson into custody.
I'm shocked that this person who I caught on my camera is associated with such a big crime, and I'm also scared that he lives right down the street.
She says learning the charges against him,
it's unbelievable.
Lopez tells me now she's one of many thinking of the nightmare Sade's family is experiencing.
I can't imagine what they're going through. It's heartbreaking and devastating that someone so young was brutally murdered.
And while the case against Anderson is only beginning, grassroots search teams say they will be out for the next 2 days.
This whole weekend is dedicated to Sade,
hoping to help and bring closure to her loved ones. In Milwaukee, Miriam McCarr, TMJ4 News.
The motive is still unclear, but we put together the timeline and evidence laid out today by prosecutors. You can see that full story at tmj4.com.
Anderson appeared in court yesterday where prosecutors say they found blood in his home along with a, quote, sex dungeon. His bond is set at $5 million. I'm joined now by Steve Spingola, retired Milwaukee police detective and investigator on the Oxygen Channel's cold case. He worked extensively on the Jeffrey Dahmer investigation, which also happened in Milwaukee. Welcome to the program, Steve. I got to ask you, this is the same city. This is grisly. There's a sex dungeon. Does this feel a little like the Dahmer case?
First of all, thanks for having me. It does a little, but, when you take a look at the difference between Dahmer and Anderson, Dahmer was a lot more cunning. Anderson here, there's probably a history of mental illness. So you take a look, there's a treasure trove of forensic evidence that's left at his house and on video cameras and with witnesses. It's a little bit different than with Dahmer when you got to remember back to 1991, we didn't have any of that. But, there's always those connections, and people are still trying to link Dahmer to other crimes. One of those being Adam Walsh. But Anderson here, he's just, I don't know, he is not quite as, charming and as intelligent as you would have expected him to be if he was a serial killer.
Well, I'll tell you, the violent past that we've tracked down of this guy is pretty overwhelming. In 2014, he had a disorderly conduct. He attacked his mom's fiancée and stole a car and fled. In 2015, a domestic violence. While living with his grandparents, he smashed glass. He punched a hole in the wall when they suggested that he address his mental health. In 2019, he admitted to punching a man who tried to break up a fight between Anderson and a woman. This is the kind of guy that, should be on people's radar. And shockingly, Sade was a criminal justice student. Are you surprised that maybe she didn't see red flags?
I teach criminal justice, and yes, I am. Usually there's situational awareness here, but, she's a young girl. This older guy's interested in her. He's a bartender. That tells me a little bit about his personality. He's got that gift of gab. And wherever they crossed their paths, she was obviously smitten with him, goes on this date. And let's face it, she's the victim here. There's one bad guy. I don't like it when we blame the victim, but, you wonder what went on that night and how she winds up over at his house and eventually dismembered.
Yeah, and who knows if it's him. This is an allegation at this point. It's looking pretty strong, though, the evidence. Listen, thank you for all of this. We'll continue to watch this case. It's so distressing. But Steve Spingola, it's good to have you on. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.